Tragedy in a quiet Texas neighborhood. A kitchen fire at a home daycare leaves 3 children dead, another 4 in the hospital. Neighbors are still in shock.
A little girl, only 15 months old, left outside crying, knocking on the door of her daycare to get back inside.
Police say the daycare owner admits locking that girl out to punish her.
Their daycare center is shut down and 3 workers are arrested after police say they forced toddlers to fight.
Daycare centers are the place where we send our babies and toddlers to learn and grow and learn fundamentals for their education. Shouldn't the system that's supposed to protect and educate our children be so regulated that it can do nothing but protect and make them safe? However, the system is not. It is broken, and many instances like those in the news stories we showed do happen every day.
The law defines childcare as 3 or more unrelated children under the age of 13 receiving care from a non-relative on a regular basis of at least 1 time per week for more than 4 hours per day, but less than 24 hours. Daycare owners must be 18 years of age and free of felony convictions and arrests for child abuse. Many states also require aspiring home daycare business owners to submit the results of health examinations to demonstrate that they are free of diseases that could put any daycare children at risk. One must also contact the Department of Child Welfare or a similar agency to request a home daycare information packet. Then, an aspiring daycare owner would typically attend a licensing orientation, which typically would take 1 day and 2 to 5 hours, and then complete the license application.
In reality, it takes very little time to complete these requirements to run a daycare business.
Standards include details about providing a safe environment for daycare children. Standards may specify how many children an in-home daycare business can accept at one time, as well as the caregiver to child ratio the owner must maintain. The maintenance of records of hiring childcare workers is also necessary. Some states only advise daycare providers to obtain liability insurance to cover injuries, accidents, and property damages. In addition, an in-home business owner may need business auto insurance to transport daycare children in a vehicle.
All of these are just recommendations on policies depending on locations, but none are really required, making it even easier to obtain a daycare license. In 2011, Jessica Tata left 7 unattended children at her home daycare, where 4 of them would die, 3 of them injured due to her negligent action, which was to leave a stove unattended to start a fire at her home while she was out shopping at Target.
The State of Texas versus Jessica Tata, District Court of Harris County, Texas, July term, AD 2012. Verdict, guilty of felony murder. Assessor punishment at confinement.
As important as it is to provide closure through convictions like that of Tata in the Texas fire case, it is also important for states to fight for new laws and bills to change the daycare world. In just the last 2 years, many states, as we will show, have begun to change their daycare laws by making them more thorough when it comes to background checks of those who work with children. These laws not only make daycare centers more liable for their actions, but they also protect the safety of the children involved.
According to the California Department of Social Services website, the California Health and Safety Code requires a background check of all people who have contact with clients. If the California Department of Social Services finds that an individual has been convicted of a crime other than a minor traffic violation, the individual cannot work or be present in any community care facility unless they receive a criminal record exemption. According to the Child Welfare Services website for the state of Indiana, child staff ratios shall be maintained during all hours of operation. The chart shown is what directors will post in each class area of the child care center and in the area where parents sign children in on a daily basis.
North Carolina parents seeking or already using daycare we'll start to see the added protection of new laws in the daycare system. Daycare workers will now be facing extended criminal background checks through the federal government's E-Verify systems. This will authorize newly hired employees. Anyone with a criminal conviction of child abuse or sex offense will be banned from working in any child care system. In a law review by Carl Zinmeister, the daycare system problem was analyzed from a different perspective, the view of the workers and the daycare itself. Putting an adult in charge of many small children at once with the pressure to constantly engage, teach, and entertain all of them is a lot to ask for from most professionals and daycare personnel.
Which might be why nice professional daycare services like KinderCare can charge up to about $293 per week. Even then, there are still too many children to staff members. Even when regulated, this can cause problems with children that need attention.
That is why many people are turning to home daycare, which can be more cost-effective for homes with single parents or working parents. However, turning to home daycare because it is cheaper, one must look at why this is so. It is more costly to upkeep a separate facility rather than one's own home, and the liability and licensing for such home daycares costs little and takes little time to achieve, even if there are becoming more rigorous laws. These new laws from Missouri force child care facilities to stay up to date with training as well as keep their facilities up to date and safer because they have to be brought up to the new regulations every 2 years because that's when they have to renew their license. In the end, it all comes back to the parents when selecting a home daycare service. By law, a licensed child care facility is required to provide the parents with written policies, program goals, admission, care, and discharge of the child at the time of enrollment. The provider must also have a copy of the child care licensing rules available for review. License-exempt providers are also required to give parents a notice of parental responsibility, which includes the facility's discipline, philosophy, and policy, and facility's staff-to-child ratio. So a parent can ask to see the proper documentation to assure they are using a legitimate center. The laws in states can only do so much to protect parents, but at the same point, they have to take responsibility on themselves when choosing a home daycare center.
But also know that families are protected by law, just like in that case of negligence in the Texas fire case. Sometimes it takes something horrible happening to make a change in the community. When the idea of daycare started out, there were not any rules or regulations. It's a slightly new idea that both parents need to work in order to make a substantial living. Over time, things have evolved, and now there are new and stricter laws. It all just depends on whether or not the daycare is trying to increase their profit margin or provide a safe and healthy learning environment for these children.